Thank you to everybody for joining our first virtual water cooler session. We're here today to discuss how the marketing and sales playbook has had to change during this unprecedented time. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Claire Williamson. I'm the Managing Director of Resonance, which is a specialist B2B technology, PR, AR and content marketing consultancy. And with me today, I am very lucky to have Aurelien Mottier, the CEO of Operatix. Aurelien, I'll hand over to you to do your intro.
Hi guys, so my name is Aurelien Mottier. The shorter version is Ray, which is probably a breath of fresh air for everyone on the call today. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Operatix. We've been going for just above 8 years now, and we specialize in helping B2B software company or B2B high-level service, so the like of a PwC Gartner, to generate more pipeline and accelerate their business, basically. So it's all about growth, it's all about revenue, it's all about sales and marketing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ray. And we also have with us virtual CIO and board advisor, Simon Ratcliffe. Simon, over to you to introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks, Claire. Yeah, I'm Simon Ratcliffe. I guess I'm the other half of the equation in this conversation. So I advise a lot of boards and act as a CIO for companies that either necessarily don't want one of their own or want somebody to advise the one they have. So I guess I fulfill the role of the buyer in this process, and that's where I'm going to be looking at this from.
Fantastic, thank you. So yeah, as Simon just pointed out, we've got voices that cover sales, marketing, communications, and we get to see it through the office of the CIO. Obviously, very important member of the conversation. So, as we said in our email and the description, this isn't a formal webinar. We don't really like formalities, but what we're going to do is we're going to start by kick off by sharing some of the insight into research we recently ran. We ran research that surveyed 100 CIOs and about their buying intentions during this time. Now, that was conducted in April. Obviously, this is a fast-changing environment. What's happening from day to day is shifting, and we're going to be rerunning that same survey in a couple of weeks, which we can share the insights from. But today, we're basing that conversation around those insights. And at the end of sharing those insights, I'm going to ask Simon and Aurelien, Ray, what their thoughts and feelings are on those, on those data points. And then we're going to open it up to the floor because, this is about, we're all facing this unprecedented challenge, and it's about coming together as a community of peers to share our learning, share our insights. Obviously, data only tells one side of the story. So it's about what you guys are seeing on the ground, working with the brands that you work with. So, we're all asking ourselves the same questions. How do we make sure that we're doing the right things for our brands? How can we continue to sell through this time to ensure that we come out the other side, in a healthy state? How do we communicate with our clients and prospects? And how can we make sure that the adjustments that we're making to our sales program meet not a vacuum and leaves at the end of it? And it's a tightrope to walk for sure. So, but there is a balancing act, and there's a way through it. And, there's a lot of great minds on this call, and I'm sure that we can share insights together. None of us are alone, I guess, is the point. So just talking through the research findings, 100 CIOs interviewed, and we found, and again, this was in April, we found that 55% of IT leaders have put their buying decisions on hold, but 38% were still actively looking for solutions. So that's still quite a chunk of organizations looking for things. And actually, the interesting thing was that of those IT decision makers still looking to purchase technology solutions, 67% stated that COVID-19 had caused an increase in urgency to buy. Now, urgency is clearly the magic ingredient for marketing and sales, albeit, it's got to be carefully balanced, during a time of crisis. So that's pretty interesting from these results. And what's, probably just, more common sense is that this was to support working from home and ensure systems were secure, and also to cope with increased pressure on services. So, as we move our lives online, we're, streaming Netflix, as Ray was saying, his children are doing right now. We're shopping online. We're doing, we're living our lives online, basically. So to support that increase in demand. And the most popular technology that IT decision makers are looking for, again, probably not too surprising, is security solutions. And there's a lot more data within that white paper that we've put together, and we can share a link afterwards. But as I said, data is only one side of that. It's what we're seeing and feeling and hearing on a day-to-day basis in the roles that we play. So without further ado, Ray, I'm going to ask you the first question.
Okay.
What do you, based on these findings, what are you seeing happening in the market? What are the brands that you work with? What are they experiencing?
Well, so thanks for that. So I think there is a few things, Claire. Number one, I think that everybody is seeing, and I just did a short video about that. So sorry if I sound like a broken record, if any one of you have already watched it on LinkedIn. But we see our clients telling us that their target market is shrinking. You can't go after airlines, you can't go after hospitality, you can't go after manufacturing. The supply chain of those individuals of those companies are being impacted as well. So you end up with a smaller market to address. And what we see our clients doing, they really take a step towards account-based selling and account-based marketing. So they are trying to get closer to the accounts that they almost have left to sell to, which is a breath of fresh air, because this is always what we think you should do without COVID, okay? But unfortunately, we start programs, and in what we do, people tend to see what we do as pipeline generation, and they forget about the part of the iceberg that you don't see, which is the data, the information. It's all good to know about why someone wants to meet with you and buy from you, but it's also interesting and very insightful to understand why they don't want to and what's happening in the market. And that's kind of what we do in the profile or the intel gathering that we are building for our clients. But in essence, there is a few steps, and I think the reason why our clients are doing it, there is two main ones. The first one is that they want to make sure they are successful, potentially prior to their competitors, to enter that account, that new account that they want to target at in the midst of COVID-19, but also accelerate the process once the door is open. So not just getting the first meeting and letting the sales guy run with that meeting, but also supporting the sales team after the initial sales engagement to meet with all the stakeholders, all the other personnel that would be important in the decision-making process. So that's kind of the generic things that we are seeing from a direct sales. From a channel sales, we've seen a bit more of a shift where, I don't know if you know, guys, but we do a lot through a channel, and we see resellers, channel partners, distribution, finding it difficult to move to digital, okay? And the feedback that we seem to get is that the channel is used to physical events, or a way of generating leads that is not as digital as what we need to do right now to get in front of people. And with that comes the issue of data. How do I get the data? How do I get good, verified, validated data so I can go after people, be relevant to them, segment my campaigns, and get response? And also marketing. So some of the smaller partners may not have a marketing team. So we push services where not only we help them to tailor data sets so that we can get them even if they've got a good campaigns from the vendors, we would help them to find the fuel to get that campaign going, and then we will pilot with marketing services that campaign. And then the last part regarding the last part of the question, which is where we see the success, we have the chance to do a lot in the cybersecurity space. We got sucked in cybersecurity. It's very incestuous. Lots of you guys are in cybersecurity today around the water cooler, around the virtual water cooler. So you probably know what I mean, but everybody knows each other. So we got sucked into cybersecurity. And the good news with working from home is that you need security. We have clients like Pulse Secure. We have clients like BitGlass, who are VPN or CASB, i.e. protecting online application, or protecting access to assets. And those guys have seen a great amount of success, okay? At the other end, I mentioned Gartner as one of our clients. Well, what we were doing for Gartner was driving people to their conferences. And that, of course, is not going as well at the moment. So it's been a bit of a balance, but I believe that if you have a solution that can demonstrate some sort of a return on investment, you have a card to play. And I'm saying that from living with a finance director. My wife she's the FD of the CIO of the BT division that is bringing mobile network 5G to the UK. So she did the acquisition of EE, and now they're pushing the 5G in the UK. And we do lots of Zoom call with friends and quizzes and all that. Well, sorry guys, did you lose me for a sec? Hello, hello? Yeah, am I back?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you were muted, but it's back now.
It's just my wife calling me from downstairs. She didn't get the memo that I'm on a session with you guys. But what those guys are telling me, they said, look, we can find CapEx, we can find OpEx. You just need to be able to show tangible return on investment. Okay, so that's very, very, very important, I think. And what we do with our clients is to support them in driving the message around return on investment. What can you do? Can you show it? And can you show it early in the sales process? Because if you have that, then you can support your champion within the organization to go and get that budget for you. So these are the few things that we are seeing. This is how we are adapting. There is lots of details, but from a high level perspective, it's really direct marketing, shrinking market. How do you bubble wrap, get closer to those clients, make sure that you are pertinent, because you can't use that machine gun approach anymore. Channel, how do you get basically, how do we help people who have MDF? And, you know, in large company, they need to spend that money. How do we help them to spend that money in a relevant way, and supporting their channel to adapt to what's happening in the market. And finally, from a solution perspective, if you don't have the luxury of having a solution that is highly on demand, like Zoom, like the VPN and all that, at least make sure that you speak about return on investment. At least make sure that you address the fact that there will be money being made out of your solution. That's what we do.
Excellent, thank you, Ray. And Simon, I guess from your perspective, you know, being the, you know, through the CIO's eyes, going back to that return on investment message. I mean, what do you feel needs to happen with brands selling, communicating to CIOs?
I think one of the great changes at the moment is actually CIOs can spend more money right now than they've ever been able to spend before, because we've had to do it. And I mean, I've kind of characterised what we've been through as almost a three-stage approach, and I think that the data is interesting because it only fits in the first two stages of my theory. So you really need to rerun this research to see if my third stage actually pans out, and then I feel like I've achieved something. But the first stage we all went through it, and at slightly differing times depending on what country we're in, is we all went into a survival mode. We all do. It's human nature, and as we went into survival, yes, that's where a lot of that buying behaviour came from. We had to buy stuff to get people working at home, unless the organisation naturally worked at home. But there was just a let's go out and do it. And I think the interesting thing from the CIOs I work with certainly was very much, they weren't asking permission, they were just going and doing it. And for once, the business actually turned its view around. It wasn't asking for ROI, it wasn't asking for KPI, it wasn't asking for a business case, it was just saying do it. Just do it and we'll figure the outcome out later. And it actually, to me, that's signalling a shift in, we're going now into much more outcome-based buying, and it's quicker. And if we're buying quicker, we need to be sold to quicker. Otherwise, we will just naturally go to the channels we've always been to, because we'll get that speed of response, which isn't always the best answer. And I think the interesting thing now is, once we've gone through survival mode, and I think most organisations are largely functioning, and even the ones where they know that there's a lot of furlough going on and there's a lot of standing down and are starting to come back, they're going into the second phase, and that we're also seeing in that buying pattern. And the second phase is what I would call optimizing. It's, okay, we've survived, we did the bare minimum, now let's make it work a little bit better. Or, as Ray said earlier, let's actually make it secure as well. And that's where I think some of that buying and security product has come from. Where that becomes interesting, though, is what I've been trying to encourage people to do in the situation of optimizing is, don't just optimize in a vacuum. Don't sit there as the IT department. Actually go back to some basics of behavior now and turn this around and start to actually go back out to your users and actually go out and do user satisfaction surveys. Go and ask, what else can we do? And that's going to drive, I think, another little phase of buying, and that'll be less panicky, less at ridiculous speed. It'll be, and it'll be a little bit more fragmented, because I suspect users in different places will be asking for different things. But again, we've still got a little bit of that carte blanche there. The business are very pro us going out and doing it. We've been empowered as an organisation in many ways. We've been empowered as never before. I spoke to one organisation I do a lot of work with, and frankly, I was thinking about not doing so much work with them before this happened, because I was a little bit fed up of being told I was an overhead, as a lot of IT departments are, and it had been consistent and persistent for years. And it was a fairly traditional. Well, it's a law firm, so most people can probably figure that out. But actually, because we managed to get all the lawyers out there working at home really, really quickly, what then actually happened is the lawyers have gone back and said, do you know what, we've just leapt ahead of our competition. Is this digital transformation we've just done here without almost realising it? And that is what is going to become that third phase, the third phase we haven't yet proved. But the point there is, because they just empowered the IT department, they hadn't put the usual constraints around them. They hadn't put the buying processes around them necessarily. I'm not saying they've run right. They haven't. They've spent very intelligently. But what they've done is they've delivered an outcome back to the business in a way that the business, if they tried to write a business case for, the business would not have seen the logic of. It wouldn't necessarily have resonated with them, but the circumstances have dictated the behaviour. And that really has kind of opened up that ability, I think. But it does mean that the successful IT departments are the ones that are acting quickly. So the counterpoint to that is we're buying more quickly. We need that advice more quickly. We need that guidance more quickly. So speed is really, really important here. But we're empowered in a way that we've never been before. It's actually quite refreshing in many ways.
I think you raise a really important point there. And I think from a marketing perspective, the brands that will do well out of this are the ones that are customer centricity has been a buzzword for many, many years. But I think now more so than ever, as marketers, as PRs, as communicators, we need to be keeping our finger on the pulse of what the brands that we work for, their prospects, their customers, what they're looking for, and where their markets are going. And that's that digital transformation piece, which again has been a buzzword for many, many, many years. I've been speaking about it in my career for, I don't want to say how long. So, do you think, Simon, then, this period of time is digital transformation will actually mean something after this?
I don't know the phrase will ever actually mean anything, but in terms of are we going to transform? We have to. Anybody who sits there, and I had this conversation with the board the other day. They said what we're looking to do is we're hoping we can weather the storm, and we're hoping we'll come out of this the other side in some semblance of order. To which my response, quite simply, was, I'm afraid hope isn't a strategy. It can't work. There has to be change. We are not going to come out of this in the same way. I don't think we're not going to become the Zoom generation. I don't think that's not the fundamental change. What I am seeing, and I always use this example, and I'm sorry, Claire, I know you've heard this one before, but digital transformation. I have been going to the same little farm shop in my village for the last 20 odd years, and yes, Ben, I still live in the same house. So but what I noticed suddenly was they went online. I can buy my vegetables online and they deliver. They have digitally transformed. Okay, that's a tiny little organisation, but they've done that as a consequence of this. And when I was talking to them, I said, do you think you'll carry on doing this afterward? They said, oh God, yeah, because we've got so many customers we didn't have before. We've reached a whole new market. Now, yes, okay, that's selling vegetables in a small village, but that principle is there. So many organisations have had to be clever about how they reach their customers, or how they manage their whole supply chain, and that's become a lot more efficient in a lot of ways, and that needs to continue and will continue. There will be the inevitable changes of more people will work at home, less people will commute. Okay, that's fine. I actually don't see that as the biggest sea change. I just think that'll be a ripple on some of the other changes that's going to happen, and a positive ripple in many cases. But I think that how people are thinking and how people are doing it will drive the change. But again, I think it is the business is realizing, and I hate, almost do hate the separation of business and IT, but it's there. The business is realizing actually we can just do this stuff, and they've got a much bigger appetite for risk at the moment. And every IT department, CIO that I'm talking to, I'm saying capitalize on that risk. You know, actually take that opportunity to prove your worth, because we've been so hamstrung for years. We need to build on that opportunity, take that opportunity to show that what we can do, and actually drive it forward. So yes, the phrase digital transformation is as meaningless now as it was 10 weeks ago, but the principle of we have to change, I think is become so much more fundamental in what we do.
Yeah, so I guess it's about understanding how those consumption patterns are evolving and fine-tuning the business. And from our perspective as the marketers, making sure that we understand the audience our customers are ultimately selling to, and how the consumer is adapting during this time, and how it will change for the long term. So Aurelien, just going back to Simon's 3 stages of survival, optimism, and transformation. How does this approach? How does it impact the approach to sales that you've been taking?
Yeah, so I think we've had something quite similar to what Simon is describing. We call it a different way. We call it the first 2 weeks of the lockdown were a little bit of a period of figuring out things. So obviously lots of people had to get lots of their staff working from home, which has been a challenge for lots of organizations. And during that period, really what we saw is lots of demos, lots of deals, lots of meetings, lots of everything being pushed back. Okay. The good news is that now that we are in May, we are seeing all those things coming back in the agenda. To Simon's point earlier on, and to your point, Claire, we also saw things happening quicker in that period of time. We've seen some, again, coming back to Pulse, they had a few deals that were at 50, 60%. People were trying to find the budget, trying to negotiate with them, and all of a sudden the purchase order was freshly printed. We need it now. But most of it for us was really the first 2 weeks, that week of figuring out was really impactful in terms of business. It was difficult to have conversation. We almost felt that we were rude or impolite to engage with people for some reason, because of the pandemic and because what's happening out there, and the way the news were driving such a dark image of what's going on out there. Then I think from the 3rd week onward, we kind of got to that. I hate that phrase now. I used it a lot in April. It gets me a little bit nervous now. It's called the new normal. I don't think, but I will use it anyway, because this is what we called it. And people were kind of trying to find their fit. People stopped complaining about having their kids at home. People stopped complaining about, having to work hours in the evening, or, managing your life in a different way because your partner, your husband, your housemates are also working, and you need to work around each other. And people really started to not only try to protect their job, but also bring value to the organization, and adapting to the best of their ability to what's happening. So that's kind of new normal was good to us, because we had lots of conversation. We had people that were a little bit more relaxed to engage with us, so they would give us more information. They would have more time. We would also cut off their day. We would receive call back. We would get people engaging with us on a more personal basis as well, because you would have a chit chat about how you're dealing with this, that. Oh, is my dog that you can hear in the background? I'm sorry. Or what sort of dog do you have? Those sort of conversation kind of relax and help us to build relationship, which is very important in sales. So that new normal was kind of good. And now we are kind of coming back to a normal, if I'm completely honest with you. Since the beginning of May, we've seen it for ourselves as Operatix. We've had 3 contracts of clients that paused prior to so they paused probably mid-March, saying, look, we really want to work with you. And it was expansion. So existing clients that wanted to expand in new territory or territories, and they paused everything. They all back. They all started now. We all started this campaign beginning of May. And I think people are just, in a way, a little bit fed up with it now. So we're coming into that fed up period where people come back to trying to normalize what's happening. We are seeing some prospects in France, in Germany, but also in the US, really planning their return to the office, much more than we see in the UK at the moment. I think, Boris Johnson was maybe not too specific. I think he was clear in a way, but some people say he was not specific. But I don't think the country is ready for people to go back to the office as such. So we probably need another couple of weeks. But in France, people are starting to plan the return to the office. How are we going to push the furniture? How are we going to manage the lift? All the sort of things of the conversation. So the conversation are evolving. But all in all, I think it really helped us in a way to make ourselves a little bit more human, our sales conversation more human, and help us to really build up relationship with prospects. People that, and through this relationship, we see a better conversion from conversation to meeting sat to demo. So because there is a relationship, people are more involved in the process. It's less, I'm going to check your product out, and there is a relationship in there. So that's all good for us. But we've seen similar stages. But right now, what I'm feeling is that, and speaking with lots of people from end user to CIO, CEOs, VCs, I think everybody wants to see the end of it. Everybody's fed up to speak about COVID-19. Everybody's fed up with the new normal. It's like, okay, let's get going. Of course, as I said, some industry will still be impacted and they will struggle. Everything to do with travel will struggle, hospitality struggle. But I think for the rest, we are now kind of coming back. Everything seems to be coming back. And at least that's the way we feel.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say. At first people put things on pause. I think businesses had to work out their risks. They had to scenario plan, etc. So there was an automatic, let's put the brakes on. But then as things kind of settled and calmed, and there was a bit more clarity, or not that there's any clarity right now, but as it became settled and people had thought their positions through, thinking long term is absolutely critical from a marketing and sales perspective. And I think that that's exactly what we found as well from our marketing and PR contracts. People are now realizing that at some point we're going to go back to some sort of normal, new normal, normal, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, and businesses need to survive. So they're thinking longer term, and that's absolutely critical.
And I think just to add on that point as well, we had a moment of concern when all the large IT organizations came out with their results. So the like of, I think Google came out with their results maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. They are clients of us as well. And their results were poor, because people have stopped investing in ads, and their top company, Alphabet, decided to slash marketing budget, which had a little bit of an impact on us. And they had so much bad press for that, so much bad press. As much bad press as Apple, when they had people in China, they were incentivizing people in China during the pandemic, during the beginning of the pandemic. So before it came to us, they were incentivizing people to go back to the office while the government was, and that's creating bad press. I think what we are saying is that there is almost that sort of, some people have done it, but Google had so much bad press about cutting marketing and being capitalistic and stopping to do things and having a knock-on effect on so many people. And I think it's helping us in a way, but it's the right thing. It's an interesting one. I think we are through that wave where people are stopping to think, I'm going to stop selling, I'm going to stop marketing. People are just like, look, my forecast is out of the window now, but we need to survive. We need to keep on going.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings up an important point about reputation. What brands do today really will impact their success into the future. And I think just also going back to wanting this all to be over and being bored of talking about COVID-19, as an agency we ran some research on the top publications across vertical sectors. And interestingly, B2B technology publications, only 25% of their articles were focused on coronavirus, COVID-19. And, we spoke to a few of our close contacts in those publications, and they said that, they are sick to death pictures being sent to them, with trying to shoehorn COVID-19 into there. Obviously there's other sectors like retail and travel that they have an authenticity to talk about COVID-19, but the B2B technology publications want the business as usual story, so it's really important to continue communicating business as usual. Okay, excellent. So Ray, earlier you spoke about the channels, the fact that obviously events are off the cards, and your relationship with Gartner has kind of shifted because of that. What channels, and you also spoke about the fact that picking up the phone, people were more willing to have a conversation and build those relationships. What do you see as the most important channels for sales, and how does that adjust?
Yes, so that's a good question. So it's been moving a little bit. First of all, we've seen, well, you're right, the decline in terms of events. We had lots of people coming to us, existing clients, new clients, or prospect, and basically coming because they need some leads, right? They need to get in front of people. They still need to get going. So that was a good for us. We have had some feedback from people using intent marketing that have struggled, because intent marketing is IP based, and would allocate an IP with a location, and with people working from home, if they are not using a VPN, that would create some issues. So basically everybody has seen their leads kind of drying up. For us, what we've seen 4 main stats that are really important to us at Operatix, and that has been driven. I'm just looking at my screen now because they've been freshly updated by my VP of operation. But we've seen an increase of our staff productivity by around 17%. Okay, we had a all-hands meeting with the team the day after we locked down, and what we told them was very simple. We said, look, we are not nurses, we are not doctors, so we can't save life. But what we should do is to work 25% more, 30% more, and take responsibility, be that little cog in the economy that will keep going, okay? And we are used to do that because we've got the summer period, so we cover France, Spain, Germany, and that's how we counter the lack of prospect being available or being on the seaside, is by just working a little bit harder and increasing the productivity. But that increase of productivity has just happened really by people starting a little bit earlier in the morning, taking shorter lunch break, and working a little bit more in the evening as well. So that was good. So 17% increase. We've seen a decrease in terms of engagement through the telephone for obvious reason. We have a lot of switchboard number. We will have a lot of DDI number in the office. Those numbers are not all connected to a mobile number, so sometimes it just rings without nothing. But also, people working from home may not just pick up every single call on their mobile. So the phone channel was really affected. We've seen an increase in terms of email by 9%, but most importantly, and I think this is the champion channel, would be social media. So LinkedIn, we've seen an increase of 16% in terms of response that we are getting using LinkedIn. So it seems that people have, they've been turning to LinkedIn in the lockdown, spending more time in checking what was going on, maybe looking for jobs, some of them, maybe looking at what was the updates of other companies, some other, but LinkedIn has been very, very, very successful for us. So to your point, Claire, I would say that the medium that we've seen really coming above and beyond will be social. In the UK, it's LinkedIn. If you go to countries like France, it would be Viadeo. If you go to countries like Germany, maybe Zing. But it's very much that social, that professional social network has been very good to us in that period.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I guess people are spending just more time on there, without the commute, or just thinking a bit more about reaching out and getting in touch as you're isolated. Maybe you're wanting to be more social online. So that's an interesting stat that you threw in there. Simon, as a CIO, how do you want to be communicated to? And tell us maybe a few examples of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I'm curious about the LinkedIn one, I have to say. A lot of Yeah, a lot of IT departments are still working really hard. I think there's a myth going around that actually this is a really good time to do training. That's the one I hear quite a lot. Yeah, I got loads of time to go online and do a load more training. I don't think people do actually have that. I think, do you know, the reality is, in many ways, how we want to be communicated with hasn't really changed. You're right in inbound phone calls is probably not good for us, because actually a lot of us are dealing with a lot of other calls at the same time. But I think it's having that access to the information, being able to go out and clearly. I think we are changing. I think there's a lot of us looking rather than us necessarily wanting to be told as much these days. We will start to be able to find, but we want to be able to find it more easily. And again, a lot of that is what I am finding is a lot of CIOs are getting together. A lot of CIOs are sharing in forums, and we are recommending people to each other, which helps. And it's about sometimes engaging in some of those forums, because we are very open to external parties coming in there and sharing the information, sharing ideas, and sharing stories perhaps with other people that we haven't necessarily thought of. So I think that I've seen an increase of. I've spent more time talking to other groups probably in the last couple of months than I had prior to that. So that's useful. Again, I'd absolutely take the point. I'm almost tempted to put a filter on my man. If it had the word COVID or coronavirus in it, it would just get junked. It is about, we're now looking at, a sense of normality, in the sense of, okay, we've survived, we've optimized, we know what the problem was. We don't need to be told that again. What we need is to look at options and possibilities that are open to us, just for progress. What we have is an opportunity to move some of the things that we were going to do quicker. And we've got an imperative to do that, because we need to find the new markets. We probably need to optimize our operational side. And it's that to us is just, it is BAU. We're at that level of BAU now, and we need to think that way. It's just that we have greater opportunity inside that BAU. So I guess the bottom line is I'm not sure there's a huge difference that needs to be made in how we're communicated with, in many ways, because we are seeing this as quite normal now.
But I think the community is a good point, to be fair, Simon. We are seeing that also from a sales and marketing perspective. In my LinkedIn, I spend more time on LinkedIn because I had a lot of people contacting me, ex-clients, basically asking what we are discussing about today. How do you adapt? What do you do for your other clients? What do you do for my competitors? And because we don't have a clue, but you are in the trenches, you seem to be testing things. You've got some sort of a sales lab going on with all the things that you are testing and all that. So you must know. So lots of that has been driving me towards the social media as an individual. And also lots of other business owners asking me, what we're doing. Are we following? What's the concept of it? How do we plan things? I had people asking me if we plan to go back to the office. And that sense of community, I think, is really important, and hopefully it will stay, because I love sharing, but I love also getting people giving new ideas. It's quite interesting. It's the fun part of the job, really, which is discovering how to adapt, and that's what makes it fun in a way, in a very bizarre way. But I love the community, and I love that spirit of sharing. So I hope. Hopefully that will carry on long it lives.
Do you know what? I think it's fascinating, because it's something we've been advocating for years and years. I think across a lot of CIO communities is, why don't businesses just share the ideas with each other? And everyone's going, no, it's our idea. It's not a unique idea. Let's just share. And if you look at, the great example is always given is, Netflix will happily share their code and their practices with everybody because they think that's the way to go.
Yeah,
it's engendered that kind of spirit, and there is that, and that spirit is important. And you're right. If we can keep that going forward, that will be a bonus.
And I think that that is a perfect point to bring in the other people on this call. You know, this was all about bringing the sales and marketing community together. So I'd like to now open this up to questions from, insights, stories from anybody that wants to share.
I'll be the brave one. I'll start. This is Dean. I head up marketing at a company based in Silicon Valley called Jumio. We do online identity verification. We leverage Operatix on both sides of the pond. And I'm just curious from the other folks, we've had a lot of success with Ray in the US, especially over the last 2 or 3 weeks, but we haven't had nearly the same success in the UK. And I'm wondering if other people have experienced that, like they're stronger in certain regions, or the receptivity of the message is working in better regions than others. I'm just curious if other people have a perspective on that.
Well, I'm gonna jump in quickly. Hi, Dean. Nice to see you. Yes, one thing that we realized in the US, so we did a survey in the US across all our staff, and we realized that some states or some regions in the US actually kind of carried on as normal. So South, the kind of the center of the US, and obviously you had some regions that were extremely impacted. West Coast, East Coast, lots of impact. I don't know if it's political. We can't really put the finger on what's making that shift, but some people have told us it's political. So it's kind of the states that are more support of Donald Trump and his policies and are more like, you know, forthcoming when it comes to let's protect the economy. You know, we'll have to deal with it. Let's get out there. It's kind of the fault of the Chinese if it's landing on us, but we've got to carry on. Let's go to work. Let's not wear masks and everything. And some others were like, no, actually, you know what? We've got a big responsibility here. Let's stop the pandemic. Let's be a bit more extremist in the way we kind of deal with the lockdown. And we see that even from our clients on the East Coast, people have really taken it very seriously. You know, New York, Boston metro area, we see lots of people who've been saying, look, we need to stop for a period of time. And that's where we had most of our clients actually saying, look, we need to pause or we need to find, because they really felt it. In Europe, we had that up and down. We are seeing the end of it now, but we had that up and down where it started by, but we don't do those countries with you, but it started with Spain, Italy, France, then the UK. And you had some countries that have not been impacted, like the Nordics, for example. But we are, those curves of impact have happened at different time. But the good news with the US is such a wide territory that we always been able to find a pocket or states or a few people that will be like, you know what, we're going to carry on as normal. And that's really where we've been able to focus our efforts. And also from your perspective, I think from your marketing, the lead that you've generated in the US have been of a much greater quality, people who are ready to engage, people that actually almost use the pandemic as a call to action to use Jumio, because Jumio is a great it's a great platform. If you guys bank with the like of a Monzo or Revolut, and you don't want to go to a bank to give your passport to authentify yourself, that's what Jumio do. You know, you can do it from your phone. They take, you know, facial recognition, lots of other bits and pieces that they do, and it's really good. So their technology actually makes a lot of sense because you can't go to the branch, but you should still be able to open an account. But I think the UK was a little bit, the prospects were less receptive to the sort of technology that seems like almost like a digital transformation rather than a must-have right now of getting people to work from home. Well, in the US, people are almost embraced it and say, well, you know what? It's a good time to do it now. Let's take that plunge. So that would be my 2 cents on your point here, Dean.
Thanks, Ray.
Any other questions, thoughts, insights? Anyone else feeling brave?
Well, I'll go again. A quick question. By the way, so, no, I think I may have cut off Nadia, but I'll be quick on this one. When we spoke, you know, to CIOs and CTOs, and LinkedIn, I'm not sure is their primary, their favorite means of getting communicated to. Simon, is there have you seen a LinkedIn message from a third party that felt genuine? It'd be something like I'm going to accept that LinkedIn request, because I think all of us, I'm getting probably 100 LinkedIn requests a day on the market side, right? People, most of them are trying to pitch me or sell me, and it's not very veiled at all. It's pretty transparent what they're trying to do. Do you accept any LinkedIn requests? And if you do, what are the ones that stand apart? Is there something that's different about those requests than others?
No, I don't accept all of them. I have a very simple rule that I also cleanse my LinkedIn on a regular basis as well, so I may accept and then reject. Anybody who tries to sell to me on the word go, that I'm not interested. That's not what that platform's for. And obviously recruiters are not my favourite people either. But the problem with LinkedIn, I think, it's like any other media. It's actually not the fault of the people putting the message in. It's the fault of the people who are using it. And a lot of people seem to think, oh, I've got 1 million followers, therefore I'm good. And it's about actually, dare I say, it's the wit of the person using it that's the critical factor here, not the wit of the person sending the message in. And there are people that I've been connected to on there for years who actually will share an idea with me. Ultimately, yes, perhaps it's their idea, therefore they're trying to sell it to me. They will share that idea with me, and I will read it because I know and I trust them, and you build up that level of trust. So it can be used, and it can be used effectively. It's where people use it as that very blunt tool of, I'm going to follow you, I'm going to try and sell to you within 30 seconds. That's not CIOs, that's anybody. I think that's going to disconnect. However, my take on that, when somebody was complaining to me about it the other day, saying, well, I've got all these people who keep selling me things, it's like, well, you're the I won't use the word I used, but you accepted the request, therefore you let yourself in for this. Clean them out, sort them out, and I always question, if somebody wants to connect to me, I'll sit there and go, okay, why do they want to connect to me, and have they have they given me a compelling reason? I had one today from somebody. I helped out on a presentation last week, and I got a really nice mail saying thank you very much. And because of the questions you asked me on that presentation, I'd actually like to have a conversation with you. Are you up for it? And I'm like, yeah, actually, because you've engaged with something that I've done. You've picked on an area of interest. But it is, there are too many people who do not understand what LinkedIn is for, and that is the problem. But it's on both sides of the equation. I can't sit here and just go, do you know what, it's all the sellers and marketers. It's not.
Thanks for that.
I think, Simon, when you raised a really interesting point there, it's about trust and building that reputation and being helpful before going in for the hard sell.
Yeah.
Interacting first so that you become a known entity and offering up helpful advice. And then, warming it up. I mean, it's kind of common sense, really, I guess.
Buy me a beer first. That's all I'm saying. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
Any more?
Yeah, I just wondered if I could ask a question. Obviously, I've been involved in marketing for a long time. Hello, Simon.
Hello.
What is LinkedIn for? I've never been able to figure it out. It seems to be different things for different people. What is it for?
Do you know, that's strange, because if you listen to LinkedIn, all they ever tell you is, there's people looking at your profile, therefore your next job's not far away. I'm sitting there thinking, well, I'm not looking for another job, so that's not helpful. It's, again, I think that depends on the user. From my point of view, it's a way of reaching. I'm a great believer in communities and groups on LinkedIn, actually, more than I am with individuals. And I do join quite a few groups, and I like to contribute to those groups. And I think that's important. It is about putting your skin in the game, almost, because that way then you do get dialogues with people. Sometimes, it's almost being a little bit controversial as well. And I use it as a source of information. There are some very insightful articles on there. Again, you get the whole social media like culture, which is quite frustrating, and that's part of the problem. It fails in that it doesn't have a singular purpose, and everybody uses it for different things. And if you said to a lot of people, could I take your LinkedIn away for 6 weeks? I get quite twitchy about that. And this is the man I've got no Facebook, no Instagram. It's the only social media I do use. Maybe that's why I get twitchy, but it's of value to me. Whereas I think with a lot of people, it's like, oh, how many likes can I get on that? Can I find a new job? You know, it's put in the same bucket as the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and I don't think that's the purpose of it. I think it is much more. It's the community side that is critical.
I was just about to say, it comes back to that community piece again. You know, building your community, building your peer group, I guess, virtually, and yeah.
I think LinkedIn are confused about what they're about as an organisation. They spend a lot of time trying to get you to sell on LinkedIn, sales masterclasses. It's a very confusing message, I think. But
yeah,
it is. But actually, maybe Dean, this answers your point of earlier. If to connect to someone like me, it's when I find people in some of the forums and the groups. That's when I start to listen, because I know they're not necessarily just talking to me, they're talking to the group, and therefore they've got something to share. That to me is more listenable. That's my word for the day now. I've made up a new word. I'm happy.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the thing with LinkedIn as well, you mentioned it, Simon, it's about interacting in a very intelligent way. So there is nothing more frustrating than someone sending you a LinkedIn connection you don't even know who they are, and they don't tell you why they want to connect with you. You connect with people you know. So what we say to our guys is, you should not send connection. You should not just try to connect with someone for the sake of connecting someone, but you should collect information. You should read the article. You should see if they are posting something, and you should comment. You should participate, and that's what we call kind of creating the resonance of your name. So people start to, and if you've got a name like mine, it's useful. If you are called Stuart Smith, it's a little bit more complex. But people kind of associate, there is that sort of thing that you click if someone posts something and you comment and you are relevant in what you are doing, and then you can allow yourself to send them an email. But you should never just send them an email for the blasting thing is the problem. Is the problem with all marketing. Is the problem with, people call it telemarketing, when you have the same thing you say to everyone. If you've got that volume approach, that's what annoys all of us, is that volume approach. You know, you mentioned recruiter, Simon. I had a recruiter calling me the other day, and I said, look, I've got lots of recruiter calls, so I'm going to give you a chance because I'm in the game of selling here. If you can tell me the 3 reasons why you are different from any other recruiter, I will give you an hour of my time. And, you know, this individual, that person actually was able to articulate that to me. And so I've looked at what you've done. They've done their research in what they told me. They told me that they had a way to match the psychological profile of our best performer with new candidates. So, because they are like, for what you do, there is no university. People won't get an MBA in pipeline generation. Okay, so you need to have a specific set of individual with a specific mindset. We can help you to match that. Okay, we've got some great success with other companies, but that's really what makes us unique. And it's only 1 point. It's not the 3 points that you asked me for. There's also a little bit of a pushback, which is good because you don't want, you know, someone to give you exactly what you want. But he was good, articulate, done his research, and I was like, you know what, yeah, and we bought their stuff. We bought their stuff because, you know, they were good in the rest of the sales process. So that's a good sales approach. So I think there is always a way. I go to meetings where I sit to people like in front of Dean or whoever, CMOs and all that, and they say, I've never taken meeting with organization like you. I'm like, well, this is what you just pitch what we do. I must be different if I'm sitting in front of you because you never take meeting with company like me, I'm here. So what do you like about us? And it's usually, okay, well, your guys approached us, he was different. They've done their research. They understood what we are doing. They use some user case that were resonating. And to your point, you just touch on those little cards that are like the sensitivity things, what you're doing with other people. Oh, a connection, someone that I know and respect that you work with, but without doing the name dropping, is making all those association. And that's how you use the social media. I think what you're talking about, guys, is completely fair. I mean, I had 10 people this morning, just a software developer from Ukraine that want to add me on the thing. I don't want to develop anything. I've got telemarketing companies who want to sell me their services because I want more leads. I mean, come on, guys. Do your bloody research. Yeah, but that's what's frustrating because this is giving us such a bad name. Yeah. And people are making association, but actually, when you do your job with research, with a little bit more thought process, and you just don't believe that selling is a number game, but it's actually an art with a bit of quality, that's why you become partner. That's how you're going to get conversation with people. And it's that refreshing conversation that will also increase that sort of customer experience before that person even becomes a customer, which also gives you a better chance to close your sale, because there is that appreciation of engaging the conversation with them. And I think that's the big difference in using a medium like LinkedIn. But I completely agree with you. I think people who are just blasting they're just idiots, in my opinion.
Broadcasting. So we've got 3 minutes left. I think we've got time for one last question, guys. Who's it going to be?
So I'm going to ask a little cheeky question. So we've heard about, you know, how we need to sell, how we need to adapt, how we need to not sell, but actually have a bit of common sense and when we approach people, actually understand what they're trying to achieve. So what are you guys personally going to be changing as part of your behaviours while we find that, and I apologize, I am going to say the new normal, Aurelia, when we go back to finding some semblance of something that's a new beginning, perhaps, what will you guys be doing that's different? I'll go to Claire. Actually, I'm going to go to Claire first. We're going to ladies first, if that's okay.
Okay, excellent.
That makes perfect sense.
So you're looking for what we're going to be doing. I guess it's about, well, I think right now, let's talk from a PR communication reputation perspective. Right now, what organizations are doing is they should be acting as opposed to talking about it. So right now, people should be, the brands that have built technology that has a purpose, you know, a real purpose that fixes real world, you know, problems, need to be getting on with doing the doing. And I'm thinking, you know, in particular, Stuart, Be Create, you know, you guys have got a product that actually makes sense, you know, at times of crisis. And every single technology product should have some sort of purpose that makes our lives better in some way, whether it's helping the NHS or not. And the brands right now should be getting on with doing the good to help us through this scenario, not necessarily shouting about it and PRing it and talking about it. Talk is cheap. So I think once we get to our new normal, what I'll be advising brands to do, our brands that we work with, is reflect on the good that they've done, and, you know, and how can we help shape that message without boasting and, you know, really going over the top on it. And I think that, you know, as I said, the brands that are built with purpose are doing some great things right now. There's also a lot of brands that are going out there just talking about how they're doing great things and not necessarily doing it. And, you know, and we want to be working with the brands that are doing the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. From my side, Nadia is a bit more operational. I was a strong believer that we need to have everybody in the office, very old school. But you know, I've been kind of proven wrong. And surprisingly, I mean, we had one lady in the team, she's got 4 kids, and she still managed to do like 100, 120% of her numbers, which is amazing. But he has had a very positive effect on some people and a very negative on others. I think the people who have had families and things and, you know, people around them, great. We had lots of other people who probably a little bit younger, live on their own or live with housemates, or you know, the foreigners. You know, we've got lots of French people, Spanish, German, who may not be in a partnership or may not have a boyfriend, girlfriend, so they kind of on their own away from their family. Those guys have felt the pain. And we saw 2 things. We saw first of all the fact that we're gonna try to be a bit more social as a business, because we had lots of people actually becoming emotional about not being in the office and seeing their peers and being picked up by their peers, and, you know, having that work out, play out type of mentality. But we also will be more flexible with people who want to work. Listening to me, because I'm gonna get lots of females saying, "Oh yeah, I want to work from. I don't want to come back to the office now." But you know, we're still learning. But we've learned that from an operational perspective, some of our mindset were wrong in terms of having everybody in the office and all that. I think so that's one aspect. The other aspect in terms of our services is the adaptation. So we we've been speaking a lot internally. So I think for us, we see it as we want our people to feel that, you know, Operatix is really doing their bits, that we are adapting to the market, that we are trying to protect jobs, we are doing our best to protect our clients, to secure business for our clients and all that. So we've never done that before because I don't think we had to. I think our staff were just happy to work for Operatix because they can see our growth, they can see the logo that we're bringing in, and, you know, they were just happy with that. But in the lockdown, we felt that we had to do, and to a point that maybe we've not touched about, but maybe Claire, you can comment a bit more of that internal PR, and not doing PR about Operatix to the rest of the world, but, you know, kind of saying to them, look, we are at sea now. The water is not great, but we're on the same boat, and that boat is named Operatix, but that boat is steered, and we're steering it, and we are learning, and at every single wave, we're going to make a change. And, you know, just showing them that we're making improvement, communicating on what's happening with clients, on the good, on the bad. If it's bad, how are we going to deal with it? If it's good, how are we going to deal with it? Has been something also that we've learned. So all of that internal PR, talking to people, and doing a better job with our brands to get that loyalty from the staff is also something that we're probably going to come out of it with a bit more emphasis. And the last bit is the community. So as I mentioned to Simon's comment, I really want, and I'm working with Katarina on the call today, we really want to push to do it. But the value of it is great. You know, getting people together to speak, to chat, to exchange, to speak about challenges I find it really good, and we need to do more of that, and hopefully we will be able to carry on doing that and people taking part of it.
Yeah, the internal comms piece is very interesting, actually, and I think people are, I mean, we're over time now, so I won't go into it, but I think, you know, employees, your teams, they want honesty, transparency, more so than ever, because everybody's slightly nervous, and I think that will definitely have changed in a lot of organizations. Simon, do you want to very quickly add your 2 pence on that one, and then we'll let everybody get on with their day?
What are we going to do differently? Do you know what? In a lot of cases, I don't think a lot of things will necessarily change. It's, you know, the communication is there, the way we operate is there. IT's always been a strange beast, let's face it. What can I say? It's I think what we've got, and I think what we want to carry forward from this that's really, really important, is we have proved that by doing something on an outcome basis, as opposed to analysing everything we do up front before we do a piece of work, works. We did what we did to survive on an outcome basis. We're optimising on an outcome. We have almost, I'm not saying we've got carte blanche from business now, but we have an opportunity that the risk appetite has changed, and we have to, if we do not capitalise on that and show our ability to lead and transform organisations, and then as IT functions, we are foolish. And I think that's the biggest opportunity that we have, and I would love to see that change consistently across organisations.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Ray, Simon, everybody that's joined today, and thanks for those that have asked questions. And it's been a really fascinating discussion. We'll be sending some follow-up, communications around this, and I hope to see some of you all soon, and to meet some of you in the future as well.